He wants a contest in as close as possible to the next UK general election because he believes that by then his unionist opponents will be fighting each other rather than fighting independents and Alex Salmond. He wants to sow dissent among them, which is one reason why the Conservatives, the Liberal Democrats and the Labour Party are so keen to get on with the ballot, and they say, give the people their say and get on with it right away. So let's get to the rub of the matter. Why does Alex Salmond not call a referendum tomorrow? Answer, because he fears he might lose. So why doesn't David Cameron step in and call a referendum tomorrow? Answer, he fears he might lose. Let's consider firstly the case of the First Minister. He promised to defer the referendum. It's absolutely true. In a BBC debate, he promised to defer the referendum to the second half of the present Parliament. We need to consider why he made that promise. Consider the exegesis rather than the genesis. Well, there's that point about cohesion within the unionist camp. Further, Alex Salmond calculates that by late 2014, it may appear that the Conservatives are about to govern the UK on their own. And he wants to make the contest seem as if it is a choice between independents on the one hand and the Tories on the other hand. Not independents and the Union, but independents and the Tories. Not an easy question is the next one. What do we ask? That's his chosen question. Do you agree that Scotland should be an independent country? Straightforward, simple. Except it's not. The word agree, according to psephologists, is a welcoming word. It draws people in. People like to agree. They don't like to disagree. So the word there is good. There's something missing from that question as well, isn't there? Yes, it's the Union. The Union is missing. There's no mention of it whatsoever. No mention that becoming an independent country ends that union of 300 years. Quite deliberate, of course. Mr. Salmond doesn't want to stress that. He wants to stress the independent and free element. So I think that will be challenged and is being challenged very vigorously. So why does Alex Salmond favour a second question? Why Devo Max, Devo Plus? Why not just go for independence, which is the one he has the mandate for? He wants a fallback. He wants a parachute should independents fail to win. So you could put Devo Max on the ballot paper as an alternative. You know, do you want change? If you want change, do you want Devo Max or do you want independence? I think there's a problem with that as well, again. The problem is this. This is not a vague test of public opinion. It's a referendum to determine where Scotland goes. And referendums are about putting a proposition by a government and having that create a mandate. Independence creates a mandate for the Scottish government to negotiate the end of the United Kingdom in a settlement with the UK government. What does Devo Max mandate? Whom does it mandate? Does it mandate the Scottish government? No, they can't do it. It's got to be Westminster. Does it mandate Westminster? No. They don't agree on that position. They don't want it on the ballot paper in the first place. They want a straight yes or no. So I think we're stuck with that at the moment. The unionist parties tiptoeing towards some form of common ground. Mr. Salmond still trying to play them off each other and get a second question. And of course the demand for issues like 16 or 17-year-olds to have the vote, all sorts of arguments. My guess is, my absolute guess, is that it is still more likely that it will be October 2014 and it will be a single question. Alex Salmond gets his way on timing and that the Prime Minister gets his way on a single question, and Mr. Salmond concedes it grudgingly by saying, I wanted to give you, the Scottish people, a range of options, but all these wicked people stopped me. I think that's where we are.
If Scotland leaves the United Kingdom, it's not the end of the United Kingdom. Legally, the United Kingdom will continue to exist, but it will exist without Scotland. It will be United Kingdom of England, Wales and Northern Ireland. Now, what does worry Alex Salmond is that an independent Scotland would have to apply again for EU membership. And the reason why that's a worry, I mean, it could, in a sense it shouldn't, because of course in the end Scotland will be, if he has to, Scotland will almost certainly be accepted as a member. But if he has to apply as a new member, then under the terms of application now he has to commit to the euro and to Schengen. Now, there are a number of authorities, from the Professor of International Law at the University of Glasgow, the Professor of International Law at the University of Edinburgh. For me, you couldn't get two finer authorities in the world. To the House of Commons Library Report, are all pretty sure that Scotland would have to reapply. Appearing on STV on Thursday night, the former British ambassador, John Kerr, I think it was, Brian? John Kerr said, in his view, British ambassador to Brussels, Scotland would have to reapply. Now, there's a strong advice where the EC constitutive treaties would apply, and they say, too, that they think Scotland would have to reapply. Now, Mr. Salmon has his own authorities as well, and they're also quite impressive. The key issue, as I asked him on Sunday, is what advice has he had from the Scottish law authorities. He said he's had advice, but he won't publish it. He said he won't publish it because it's a Westminster precedent not to publish it. For a man who wants to break away from Westminster, I don't quite understand why Westminster precedent matters. I mean, this is about the future of Scotland and the United Kingdom. You would think that both the advice that we get from Brussels and the advice that we get from the Scottish law officers and the advice that we get from the Westminster law officers should all be in the public domain before this vote takes place. But so far, he's refusing to do so. Westminster will want to be really nice to Scotland for the foreseeable future to try and convince them to stay in. If, despite all that, Scotland decides to leave, that is when the gloves really come off. You want to be a member of the EU, Mr. Salmon, but you want to kick our nukes out of fast lane. You want to take all of the oil, but as little of the debt as you can. You don't want to take any of the debt from the toxic banks, but you still want to take the oil revenues. You want a monetary union, but you don't think that the Royal Bank of Scotland should be any of your problem. That is when the British establishment starts to get tough. And I foresee a really acrimonious divorce settlement if it gets to this situation. Mr. Salmon's conversion has come pretty late. It was... I mean, he was more Europhile than almost anybody. When most other Europhile politicians had abandoned the euro, Mr. Salmon told Spanish television and the BBC in January 2009 that the euro strengthened the case for independence. That before the Eurozone crisis happened, he said that John Swinney now says it's a distant prospect. Again, changing policy in order not to frighten the horses. Now Mr. Salmon is saying that he would have to agree a fiscal stability pact with the UK government and the UK monetary authorities. And he talked about 3% of GDP, and that anyway Scotland could be trusted to stick to that. I would just point out that the original Act of Union in 1703 was actually a financial bailout. Scotland was bust, had lost a third of its national wealth in the abortive Darien adventure